Hello and welcome. This is the second episode of the Sync podcast. In today's episode, we will talk about why, out of all the possible topics I could choose to discuss about womanhood, I chose two things: mindset and hormones, and also how the two of them blend together. My goal for you at the end of this episode is for you to understand that you have more control over your life and health than you actually thought you have. If you stay till the end of the episode, you will hear about the giveaway that I prepared for you and how you can enter the contest. I got interested in researching everything about thoughts and thought patterns about 7 years ago. I just entered a new job at a creative agency. It was a very well known one in Amsterdam, where I'm based, and it was a role for someone a lot senior than the level I was at. I was 23 back then, very little experience in the work field. On one hand, I knew it was going to be the right move for me because I was going to grow and learn from it. I always like challenges. I always like to push myself, even beyond the limits sometimes. I was always extremely ambitious. At the same time, deep inside of me, I was extremely insecure. I never let it show though. And since I was a kid, I developed this shell that allowed myself to keep inside all the insecurities and all the vulnerabilities. And I showed up exactly the same way in my life as an adult: a hard shell from the outside, but really crumbling inside. Now, during my morning ride to the office, I started listening to the teachings of Jim Quick. I don't know if you know him. If you don't, just give it a search. You're gonna find amazing things about him and his teachings. He was known as the boy with a broken brain. During his childhood, Jim had this head injury which left him struggling in school. He had difficulties learning. He was called by his teachers as the kid with a broken brain. His story shows a beautiful transformation from being this learning challenged kid to a world expert in speed reading and memory improvement. It's very inspiring. And I resonated with him from the first second. But my story was a bit different. Nobody ever said to me that I had a broken brain. Everyone outside of me, my family, my friends, my partner, they all saw my talent and my success. People looked up to me. I was 23 years old and already doing quite well. They saw me ahead of the pack all the time. The only person who could not see it, though, was myself. I was the one who told myself that I had a broken brain. So I learned from Jim about ANTS. That's an acronym that stands for automatic negative thoughts. So these are those thoughts that pop up in your self talk. And it turned out I had a lot of those. And they were not only annoying, but they had a huge impact on my self esteem and self worth. And I had no control over them. I just discovered at the time that they existed. And so my journey into self awareness just took off. So, those voices in our heads are what we call thoughts. Your own thoughts are the only voice that you cannot remove from your life. You can literally remove everyone else if you choose to: your family, your partner, your kids, your friends, your relatives, your colleagues. If one day you decide that you want to be alone, you can. You isolate yourself and you are going to be alone. Well, almost alone. Because that one voice in your head is still going to be there. That's you, it's within you. So it is the only voice that you cannot run away from. So instead of wanting to escape from it, we have to learn how to master it. Learn how to keep it in line. You are in control. And I learned that in life it's not the life events or the people that cause you to feel depressed, angry, annoyed, irritated, stressed, abandoned, or despairing. It's really your own thoughts. Essentially, we have the power to create our own hell or our own heaven based on how we perceive and interpret our experiences. And these voices in our heads are the different voices of our ego. The self that we think we are, which is actually different from the true self. The ego is a version of ourselves that is concerned with the individual identity and survival. It's not entirely a bad thing if you think about it. Our ego wants to keep us safe. Yes, survival is important. It is how our human instincts have been designed, right? To keep us alive. But life is temporary. So survival is not actually the ultimate goal of life. And these inner dialogues are sometimes negative, yes. And they can become obstacles in our own growth. But the thing is, they are not always negative if we look at them as wisdom. And to do that, we have first to learn how to listen to them and how to translate these messages. As women specifically, we often have a full on game of tug of war with this inner voice, even more actually than men do. And just as the menstrual cycle, this inner voice is a little bit misunderstood. The intensity and the tonality of this inner voice moves with us throughout the menstrual cycle, and it is actually revealing different things at different times in the cycle. There is a lot of power behind it if you want to learn how to listen to it and decode it. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, you know that hormones have a say in almost everything going on in our bodies, right? They affect the different functions of the organs and tissues. They also affect the chemistry of our brains and therefore also our emotions. Hormones might not influence that inner dialogue in a direct way, but they might be having some indirect effect that will influence those thoughts. Hormones change our physiology. They also change how we think, how motivated we are, how we behave, how articulated we are, and also how we internalize the outer world. And research shows that hormones directly or indirectly impact our behaviors. For example, testosterone is said to influence a person's drive to acquire status bearing resources such as money, power, leadership, which gets actually further intensified by cortisol. Now, I want to tell you about this study that I recently came across, which looked into the effects of oxytocin. Now, probably you've heard about this word. So, oxytocin is this hormone that is associated with maternal behavior, sexual intimacy, romantic love, and trust. In this study, researchers injected oxytocin in virgin rats, and they actually managed to induce maternal behaviors in animals that never actually mated. How impressive is that? So, it is clear that hormones can actually directly affect our behaviors. Hormones also have an impact on the brain. I will give you a short example on how the menstrual cycle impacts the brain. We're gonna go in the upcoming episodes on the details about the menstrual cycle and the different phases, but for now, just this example. So when estrogen levels surge, certain parts of the brain, such as the outer layer of the hippocampus, actually thickens. It becomes thicker. Also, the density of the gray matter increases. So, what does this mean? It means that it enhances processing speed and it fosters mental growth. And in the same way, when progesterone levels rise, there are these brain regions that are associated with memory, which receive an extraordinary boost. So, as a consequence, you have this amazing ability to excel at different skills and you have enhanced talents at different points in your menstrual cycle. So, for example, right after your period, your brain becomes more tuned to spatial awareness. And there's also this part in your cycle around the mid cycle where you have this incredible ability to articulate words better and you become this amazing, outstanding communicator. Towards the end of the cycle, you have this really uncanny skill to sense fear in others. So, if hormones impact our behaviors, the brain chemistry, our physiology, and emotional needs, they also impact our emotions and they influence our mental health, even if that change is just periodic and it's linked to our cycle. So each phase of the cycle brings out to the surface different aspects of yourself, different personalities, because your brain is primed to bring to the surface different aspects of yourself. So hormones will have a knock-on effect on that inner dialogue that is going inside your mind. So if you're someone who wants to translate all those inner narratives, you want to have more control over your mind, When you are isolating and you don't taking into account these hormonal fluctuations, basically you're missing out the whole picture. That's the main reason why tracking your cycle is so important. Tracking your cycle goes beyond just marking on your calendar the days when you get your period and the days when you don't have a period. Tracking your cycle is this structured practice of journaling and reflection that really enables you to look at yourself from both a physiological and an emotional perspective. It is really a tool that shows you the different aspects of yourself, and it shows you when certain skills and capabilities show up more enhanced during different parts of your cycle. And this practice doesn't have to take much of your time. It sounds very complex, but it's not. You can adjust the length that you want to spend on the practice based on your schedule, how time allows you. And if you manage to find only 2 minutes a day to do it, that's all you need. You will start noticing the benefits over time, and you will naturally increase the time for journaling. It's gonna be a I told you so moment. If you're new to cycle tracking, you can start with the basics. Write down how you feel nutritionally. For example, today I am craving sweets. Or you could also add the foods that you have consumed and how you feel right after that. Then you can also journal about how you feel physically. High energy, low energy, and emotionally. Are you more positive, optimistic today, or do you feel very grumpy and irritable? Also, you could journal about the number of hours you have slept and how you feel when you wake up. You can also take some notes about the menstrual quality of your blood, the duration of your period, the texture, whether you had or not any cycle signs such as mood swings, any signs of depression, like swollen breasts, spotting or headaches, bloating. Because tracking these basic experiences puts you back in your body. You now initiate this line of communication with yourself. And as in any relationship, at the very beginning of it, the communication might be reserved. Imagine that you meet someone for the first time. You don't feel safe to disclose all the juicy details, right? You need to build up trust. And it works the same way with your body. You have to build that trust again. You're gonna say, hey, but it's my own body. How come I have to build trust with something that is mine, right? Well, yes, it is your own body, but nowadays we are more disconnected than ever. So we have to work on rebuilding that connection with ourselves first. And cycle tracking is a powerful tool to initiate this line of communication with yourself. And just like in any relationship, the closer the friend or the partner gets, the juicier the topics get, right? The more insights you have. And the more genuine and honest that relationship and that communication becomes. So the more you develop this relationship with your cycle, the deeper your reflections are gonna be. And it will also be faster. Again, just like in any relationship or friendship, when you know someone and you have a good connection with them, you've built that trust, you don't really have to explain yourself. You understand what they meant already in the middle of the sentence. Sometimes you even finish each other's sentences, right? And it works the same way with your cycle. The more you cultivate this friendship, the deeper the connection and the faster the communication will be. And after a few cycles, you will start to notice some patterns. And these patterns are going to correlate with the fluctuations of your hormones. So learning about what your hormones are up to during each phase of the cycle can help you understand why you might be feeling a certain way during certain parts of your cycle and why you are thinking in a different way than you might be thinking about the same situation a few weeks ago. And although it won't give you the power to suddenly control over how you're feeling all the time, it can help you make sense of it. It also acts as a reminder to stop our inner critic giving us such a hard time and to be kind to ourselves instead. Cycle awareness is this tool that allows you to accept all sides of yourself and correct some thinking patterns that are not doing you any good. So, with the right knowledge and self care, we can actually turn those meltdowns and those mood swings into understanding and compassion. Now, before we meet next time in the next episode, take some time for yourself and listen to the words that you say to yourself. And if you hear yourself saying something 3 times Write it down because this has become a pattern for you. And at the end of the week, take a look at the list that you've made. And you will also see how your words fit your experiences. If you're willing to change your words and your thoughts, you will see your life change. The way to take control over your life and over your health is to control the choices of the words and the thoughts you have. At the end of the day, your own voice is the only voice you cannot run away from. And no one thinks your mind but you. You are in control. That's all for our little chat today. If you like this episode and you're excited for the next one to come, share this episode with another woman in your life that will learn from these conversations. And as I told you at the very beginning of the episode, I have a gift for you. 2 lucky winners who subscribe and leave a written review will win a spot in my next group coaching program. You can learn about the program on thesyncway.com/coaching and also on my Instagram page. And I don't want a 5-star review, although it would be nice. And I really hope that you enjoy these episodes. I actually want you to be honest. I want you to leave an honest written feedback so that I can learn from your feedback points and continue to improve the show. I will be announcing the winners in an upcoming episode. Don't forget to like this episode, and I'll see you next time.